Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, it's just never enough? You talk, you explain, you forgive, you wait, but somehow nothing changes. You're pouring love into a cup with a crack in the bottom, hoping one day it'll finally hold. But it doesn't. And deep down, you already know it won't. This is the truth most people avoid. Not every relationship can be saved. Not because you didn't love enough, or because you didn't fight hard enough, but because love cannot grow where alignment no longer exists. When one person keeps showing up while the other stays emotionally absent, the connection becomes a one-way current, and you end up mistaking your effort for progress. You keep telling yourself, if I'm patient, they'll change. You keep believing, if I love them harder, they'll finally understand. But what if that's not your job anymore? The truth is, you can't heal someone who doesn't want to see their own wounds. You can't build a future with someone who refuses to meet you halfway. And you can't keep losing yourself while trying to hold together something that's already falling apart. Sometimes, walking away isn't giving up. It's waking up. It's realizing that saving this relationship would mean sacrificing yourself. And that's not love, that's survival. Transition/call to action. So before you spend another sleepless night wondering what else you could do, ask yourself this. If loving them means losing yourself, what exactly are you saving? In the next part, we'll talk about why some connections start to fade even when the love is real, and how to recognize when you've crossed the invisible line between healing and self-abandonment. Let's get something clear. Sometimes the problem isn't love. The problem is alignment. You can love someone deeply and still not be compatible with the way they live, grow, or see the world. And that's one of the hardest truths to face. You can't build a healthy future if you're both walking in opposite directions. You can hold hands for a while, sure, but eventually, one of you will have to let go, or both of you will get dragged down by the tension. Love alone can't hold together two people who are evolving in different ways. Maybe you've noticed it. Those moments when your conversations start to feel empty, when your needs feel like burdens, or when their silence says more than their words. You keep trying to meet them halfway, but somehow the middle keeps moving. That's not because you failed. It's because alignment changes as people grow. What once fit perfectly might now feel tight, uncomfortable, or even painful. But we hold on because we remember how good it used to feel. We confuse comfort with connection and familiarity with forever. But love isn't supposed to shrink you. It's supposed to stretch you, together. If only one person is doing the growing, the relationship starts to bend out of shape. One becomes the giver, the other the taker. One keeps trying to fix, while the other keeps avoiding. That's not partnership. That's imbalance disguised as devotion. Here's the truth. You can't align with someone who refuses to move. You can't force growth on someone who's comfortable in their stagnation. And no amount of explaining, crying, or proving will make them meet you where your soul already stands. You already know it's over, but somehow, your heart hasn't caught up. You replay every memory, every smile, every moment when it still felt safe. You tell yourself, it wasn't all bad. Maybe it could still work. That's not weakness. That's human. Letting go doesn't just mean losing a person. It means losing the version of yourself that existed with them. The routines, the inside jokes, the comfort of their presence. They become ghosts you keep talking to, even after they're gone. You're not just grieving the relationship. You're grieving the future you imagined together. That's why it hurts so much, even when you know it's the right choice. Because your heart is still attached to the potential, not the reality. You're mourning the idea of what it could have been, not what it actually was. And that's a form of self-betrayal we don't talk about enough. It's easier to hold on to the dream than to face the emptiness of starting over. But that emptiness, that space, is where your healing begins. Because when you finally release what was never yours to keep, you make room for what was always meant to find you. You don't have to hate them to move on. You just have to love yourself more than the version of you that kept waiting. Forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from the constant replay of what-ifs. And yes, it will hurt for a while. There's no shortcut through heartbreak. You have to feel it to heal it. But one day, that pain will lose its edge. One day, you'll wake up and realize that missing them doesn't mean you should go back. It just means you cared, and now, you're learning to care for yourself the same way. Here's the truth no one wants to face. The reason you keep ending up in the same kind of pain isn't bad luck. It's a pattern. A cycle built from your past wounds, your fears, and the belief that if you can finally fix someone, you'll finally feel worthy of being loved. You don't fall for people by accident. You're drawn to the familiar, even when it hurts. If you grew up believing that love meant earning attention or proving your value, then inconsistency will feel like home. You'll chase approval disguised as connection. You'll keep trying to heal through someone else what only you can heal within yourself. That's why some relationships feel magnetic but heavy at the same time. The pull isn't just love, it's recognition. Their wounds speak to yours. Their silence mirrors your own fear of being unseen. And without realizing it, you keep repeating the same emotional story with different faces, hoping that this time the ending will change. But it won't. Not until you see the pattern for what it is, a lesson, not a punishment. The people who can't meet you where you are not there to destroy you. They're there to show you where you still abandon yourself. Every time you explain your worth, every time you beg to be chosen, every time you stay after your intuition says leave, that's the pattern speaking. And here's the power in this truth. Once you see it, you can stop it. Awareness breaks the loop. Once you understand that love should never cost you your peace, you'll start choosing differently. You'll stop chasing chemistry and start choosing compatibility. You'll stop mistaking struggle for passion. You can't save the relationship because it was never meant to be saved. It was meant to awaken you. There comes a moment, quiet, powerful, almost sacred, when you finally stop chasing. You don't send another message, you don't replay the last conversation, and you don't try to make them understand anymore. You just stop. And in that stillness, something shifts inside you. You realize that peace feels better than trying to prove your worth. You see that love shouldn't be a battlefield where you fight for scraps of affection. It should be a place of safety, not survival. That's the moment you begin to heal. Not when they apologize, not when they come back, but when you finally decide you deserve more than confusion. Healing doesn't start with closure, it starts with truth. The truth that chasing someone emotionally unavailable is just another way of avoiding your own loneliness. The truth that you can't be their savior and their sacrifice at the same time. The truth that your heart has been begging you to rest, not to run. You stop checking their social media. You stop waiting for a text. And instead, you start redirecting all that energy inward. You begin asking, what do I need to feel whole again? That's where the power comes back, not from control, but from surrender. And here's the beauty of it. When you stop chasing, you create space for clarity. You begin to see the relationship for what it truly was, not what you hoped it could be. You realize that their silence isn't rejection, it's information. It shows you exactly where they stand, and it reminds you where you need to go next. You can't fix them. You were never meant to. But you can heal the part of you that thought you had to. There's a moment after the storm when everything feels empty. You've stopped fighting, you've stopped explaining, and what's left is silence. It's disorienting, like standing in a life that suddenly has space but no shape. You gave so much of yourself to that relationship that now you don't quite know who you are without it. But here's the truth. This emptiness isn't your ending. It's your rebuilding phase. For so long, Your energy revolved around someone else's needs. You adjusted, softened, and made room for their comfort. You learned to read their moods, to anticipate their silence, to shrink your truth so they wouldn't pull away. And now, with them gone, you finally have to face the one person you neglected most, yourself. Rebuilding begins with small acts of remembrance. You start reconnecting with things you once loved: music, friends, moments of quiet that used to bring peace. You begin to notice what makes you feel alive again. It's slow, it's awkward, and sometimes you'll miss them all over again. That's normal. Healing isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. You'll circle back to the pain until you finally extract the lesson. You may look in the mirror and not fully recognize the person staring back. That's okay. The old you was built on survival. This new you is being built on self-respect. And that takes time. You're not trying to go back to who you were before the relationship. You're evolving into who you were always meant to become. So be patient. Healing doesn't always look inspiring. Sometimes it looks like resting, crying, or sitting quietly while your heart catches up to your mind. But every small choice you make for yourself, every boundary you hold, every truth you honor, is a brick in the foundation of your new life. There comes a day, and you won't even notice it at first, when the pain starts to lose its edge. You'll wake up, and instead of feeling heavy, you'll feel light. The memories won't sting the way they used to. The same silence that once broke you will now feel peaceful. That's the moment your pain begins to transform into power. You've cried, you've questioned, you've replayed every detail. You've done the emotional heavy lifting, and now your spirit is tired of mourning. It's ready to rebuild. That shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly, through 1,000 small decisions. Every time you choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over longing. Power isn't loud. It's not about proving anything. It's the calm that comes when you no longer need their validation to feel whole. You realize you can be your own safe place. You can create your own peace, your own joy, your own meaning without them. That's freedom. When you reach this stage, you start seeing your story differently. What used to feel like rejection now feels like redirection. What felt like abandonment becomes alignment. You begin to understand that losing them didn't break you, it revealed you. Because through the pain, you met the version of yourself that refuses to settle anymore. And now, people can feel that strength in you. You walk differently. You speak differently. You no longer explain your boundaries, you embody them. The same energy you once used to hold someone else together now fuels your own expansion. You don't need closure from them, because you've already given it to yourself. Something magical happens when you finally stop chasing what's not meant for you. The world starts to rearrange itself around your healing. The people, opportunities, and energy that once drained you begin to fade away, and new ones appear out of nowhere. That's not luck. That's alignment. When you stop begging to be chosen, you naturally attract what's meant for your frequency. You no longer carry desperation in your voice or fear in your energy. You walk differently because you finally believe you deserve peace. And that belief shifts everything. The universe mirrors the energy you send out. When you stop settling for crumbs, life stops handing you crumbs. You'll notice it first in subtle ways. The way certain people stop reaching out, or how conversations that once pulled you down no longer hold your attention. It might feel lonely at first, but that's just the old energy clearing space for what's next. Healing doesn't just change your heart, it changes your environment. Soon, you'll start meeting people who speak your language, not because they're perfect, but because they're present. You'll notice that you no longer crave chaos or confusion. You'll find beauty in quiet moments, in stability, in peace. What used to feel boring now feels safe. What used to feel like rejection now feels like redirection. And here's the most empowering part. The same energy that once tried to save a relationship now becomes the fuel for your purpose. You start pouring love into your goals, your growth, your life. You stop needing others to validate your worth because you can feel it radiating from within you. It always happens the same way. When you finally stop chasing, when you reclaim your peace, when you start smiling again, that's when they notice. The same person who once took your presence for granted begins to feel your absence everywhere. But this time, it's too late. They scroll through old messages, they linger on your photos, and suddenly they remember the warmth they once dismissed. They realize your silence isn't about anger, it's about self-respect. And that realization hits harder than any argument ever could. Because now, you're no longer reachable in the way you used to be. It's not that they didn't know your value before. They did. They just thought you'd never stop giving. They thought you'd always be there, waiting, forgiving, bending. But the truth is, you didn't walk away to teach them a lesson. You walked away because you finally learned yours. You learned that your energy is sacred, that your love is a gift, not a guarantee, and that it's not your responsibility to convince someone to see what's already in front of them. Now, they're the one replaying memories, wondering how they lost something so pure, while you're too busy living the peace they once disturbed. This isn't revenge, it's alignment. When you rise, you become a mirror. They see everything they ignored reflected back at them, the effort, the loyalty, the softness. And that reflection is painful because it shows them what they could have had if they'd been ready. But they weren't. And now, your silence has become your statement. You thought walking away would break you. You thought it would be the end of love, of hope, of connection. But what if this is where your real life begins? What if the greatest love story you'll ever live is the one you create with yourself? Because the truth is, walking away isn't giving up, it's coming home. It's the moment you stop searching for belonging in someone else's eyes and start seeing it in your own reflection. You realize that peace isn't found in someone choosing you. It's found in you choosing yourself, fully, fiercely, unapologetically. All that energy you once spent trying to be understood now flows back into you. You start setting boundaries not from fear, but from clarity. You stop settling for almosts. You start trusting your intuition, the same inner voice that tried to protect you long before your heart was ready to listen. You're no longer waiting for closure, because you've created your own. You understand now that endings are not failures, they're openings. Openings for healing, for growth, for the kind of love that doesn't drain or confuse you. A love that feels calm, consistent, and true, because it begins with you. The person you've become through all this. The one who can walk away with grace, who can release without resentment. That's your transformation. You didn't lose them. You found yourself. You rediscovered the parts of you that were buried under compromise, fear, and longing. And that's the truth about why you couldn't save this relationship, because it was never meant to be saved. It was meant to save you, to wake you up, to remind you that you were never broken, just becoming. So take a deep breath, hold your head high, and say it out loud. I didn't lose anything. I came home to myself. If this message spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs the reminder, and type in the comments. I choose peace over pain. Because this is not your ending. It's your beginning.